Hey guys, how's it going? Kevin Cleary here with a knife video for you. Today we're taking a look at the Kizer, actually the Tangram Sante Fe, and the Tangram series of knives is a budget line from Kizer. This is a pretty cool thing because they seem to be doing a really good job, and I've been wanting to get my hands on one for a while. Hadn't been able to because of the fact that they're only available through Amazon.com. Thankfully though, a viewer sent this along for review, so thank you so much for doing that, and I've been really enjoying checking this knife out. It is very well done. It really is. So that's the other thing. I love when I can bring you guys as viewers a great cutting tool that doesn't cost a lot, and it really doesn't. I think these go for, between $30 and $40. Maybe I didn't spend a whole lot of time on Amazon going through every model, but there are a number of them there. If they're all as well put together as this one, I think these will be really popular. And a number of reviewers have already talked about this knife. So for me, you'll have to bear with me here because this is my first time experiencing one of these Tangram knives, and I'm really blown away by it. So for those of you who are like, Kevin, I've already owned like 6 of these. Well, okay, that's good, and I'm glad you like it. But for me, this is my first time, and it's really impressive. Hopefully, by the way, if anyone from Kizer is watching this, please try to get these on Amazon.ca. Set up a store over there. I promise me and the other Canadians will buy these knives because we love value stuff as well. So now that all of that's out of the way, let's go ahead and talk about the details on this knife. The one thing I will say as a qualifier at the beginning is this is a little small for me. I tend to like larger knives. So this guy at only 7 9/16, that's just over 7.5 inches, is definitely a little on the small side for my preference. But again, there are other models that would be, a little more in my wheelhouse. 3 5/16 on the blade length, 4 1/4 inches on the handle. So nice, fairly compact knife here. And 3.4 ounces, which is very comfortable in pocket. In terms of how this carries, it's not a big knife, so I don't really have much to say about that. This carries very comfortably, very easily in just about whatever you happen to be wearing that day. All right, moving on to the blade here, we have a flat ground Wharncliffe style blade with a stonewash finish. Very nicely done. It's not super thick blade stock. It's fairly thin behind the edge, so that makes this really slice well. Now, the big thing to note here is that it's in this Japanese Akuto steel. Lots of people have talked about this being similar to 440C, and I think I can agree with that. I have, as I said, sharpened it, and or maybe I didn't mention that, but this came to me pretty dull, so I had to sharpen it, and I've been able to sort of go from that sharp edge, which it did take pretty easily, and put some use on it so that I have a good sense for this steel. And it is a softer steel for sure, guys. Consider it like ATR 13 MOV or 440C or something like that. Any of those other budget-friendly steels. Takes a very keen edge quite readily, and it does hold it reasonably well. You can go 3, 4, 5 days. I sharpened this and I used it for about a week and didn't need to resharpen it again. Probably could use a touch-up now, but it's still working sharp, okay? So I definitely find the steel to be more than adequate as an EDC steel. And there would be some exceptions to that rule where, I don't know, somebody just does tons and tons of hard cutting every day. Maybe they cut down 500 boxes a day. Well, yeah, you might want something with a little better steel in it. But for most of us, this is going to be absolutely excellent steel. The nice thing about this, the other nice thing, I guess, about this blade is just how slicey it is and how badly it just wants to bite into stuff. This is a really nice blade for someone who, does a lot of cutting and wants that fine degree of cutting for, slicing up apples or tomatoes or something like that. Works really well. Again, if you don't want that, there are some other models that you might want to look at. And I'll try to add 1 or 2 that I think look good and that I can at least verify a little bit with some trusted reviewers. I'll try to add a couple more to my Amazon store. And so that's one thing I should say is I will add this to my Amazon store, and I'll put the Amazon links down below. So if you want one of these, please go ahead and use those links. It does help the channel for sure. So let's move on. Now we've talked about the blade, which is quite good to lock up and deployment. So no flipper on this guy. It is a thumb stud deployment, and it deploys really nicely. It's a little stiff. You can see it's not going to drop shut for me. You could probably play with the pivot and get that a little bit better. It is Let's see if I can get this to focus. There we go. You should be able to see the phosphor bronze washers in there. I don't know, in the lighting I had earlier, they were really standing out, but for some reason, they're going to be a little hard to spot. Anyway, phosphor bronze washers in there work really well. The thumb stud, despite the fact that on camera I don't seem to be able to use it, does actually work really well also. The lockup is very, very solid, no play in any direction. The only sort of minor issue I have is there's not a ton of space here to access that liner. So it can be, you know, you've got to put a little bit of thumb pressure in there. Not the end of the world. And it's still, you know, it's pretty good. I've had some knives where that really is an issue, where you really can't get a hold of the lock bar. Not so on this one. It's just a little tighter than maybe I would like to see. You could maybe take this back just a teeny bit more so I could get a little more finger in there without a problem. So very solid, very well put together. And in fact, for a budget-friendly blade like this, the centering is really, really good. And that's something, honestly, on a budget blade, I don't even talk about because, you know, you kind of go, well, whatever it is, for 30 bucks, I don't expect perfect centering, but this one just happens to have it. So that's always a nice detail as well. So yeah, for functionality, I think the lockup and deployment on this is a total win. What about the handle construction? Well, this is one thing, we've got fairly typical handle construction here. We've seen tons of knives that are liner locks with standoffs and a liner lock. They are milled out and it does have G10 scales, which I really like. A lot of knives in the price point are not going to have G10. They'll have some kind of FRN or plastic or something. So I do like the G10 scales. They are nice and grippy. The one thing I will say is, I don't know about you, but I often, especially with a smaller knife, end up holding a little bit up here. It'd be nice to see a little longer run of jimping here. And the jimping isn't super functional. Again, not the end of the world because the G10 is grippy enough. Even if it had no jimping at all, I wouldn't really be complaining about the grip. But if you're going to put it there, you may as well put it where I can actually get some use out of it. We've got the double position, okay, deep carry clip, left or right side, tip up carry, which is what most people prefer. So definitely think that is a win as well. Let's go ahead now and get to some comparisons. The first one would be, you know, you'll have to go on Amazon and look at some of the other models that are available because there are a few of them and there have been some that have been very, very positively reviewed by others. I just haven't had a chance to look at them yet because of the availability challenge that comes with them only being offered through Amazon.com. The one that I would be most interested in is the Progression, which is a Dirk Pinkerton design, and I'll put that one for sure in my Amazon store as well. So having gotten that out of the way, let's grab some comparisons. First off, to a Paramilitary 2, just so you can kind of see the size here on this one. You can see it's a little smaller than what I prefer. What else have we got? Here is a Rat Model 1, which again, I think compares closely. Similar construction, similar level of quality and all of that. Again, a really, really good budget-friendly offering. What else have we got here? Let's bring in a couple of other, oh, actually, here is a QSP knife, which is another sort of budget targeted Amazon seller that seems to do a pretty good job with quality. I'm not sure who's making these, but it kind of looks like one of those companies where, you know, they're hiring a Chinese manufacturer to put these together for them. Oh yeah, here we go. We have a Bestech Paladin, which I really, really like. Now this is going to be sort of one step above, okay? This has got bearing pivot, a nice snappy detent, D2 steel, and the price point's going to reflect that. You know, this is like 30 bucks and this is like 50 or something around there. In a similar vein, here is the Tuya Knives Bruiser. Again, similar construction, G10 liner lock. Probably going to be a step up as well. I don't know that this costs quite as much as the Bestech though. It's probably a little closer in price point there. And since we're talking about Kizer, you know, here is a Kizer knife that is kind of, you know, in a similar vein, certainly larger. And I like this Kizer quite a bit more because of the extra blade length. And of course, you're in a very, very different price point, but I thought, you know, we've said the name Kizer so many times in this video, it was worth bringing in the Kizer Corto just to kind of give you a quick look. Okay, so what are my overall thoughts on this knife? Listen, guys, this is a really great little EDC folder, okay? It's not too expensive. It's really well put together. Yeah, I know the steel isn't, you know, M390 or something like that. But for 30 bucks, you're getting a great, useful tool. And I honestly have really enjoyed it and would highly, highly recommend it. I can't speak for all the models because I haven't had a chance to get them all in hand, but I definitely want to. And so if you're watching this and you're in Canada and you've got a couple of Tangrams you'd be willing to send along, please go ahead and reach out to me and hopefully we can figure that out. Otherwise, I am kind of looking at some ways that I might be able to get my hands on a couple others. So hopefully that will happen in the not too distant future because I've been really impressed with this one. Thanks for watching. Don't forget to like and subscribe. And hey, you may as well follow me on Instagram as well. I'll put that link down in the description along with the Amazon links and the link to my Amazon store. Again, thanks for watching. We'll talk to you soon.